Mains 2021. Science and Technology. The wind sector in India needs an overhaul. Context: globally, India has the fourth highest installed capacity to generate wind energy. Key facts: the country's total installed capacity was 41.67 gigawatts as on September 30, 2022. The Indian government set a target for 175 gigawatts GW of renewable energy capacity by 2022. The goal included achieving 60 gigawatts of onshore and 5 gigawatts of offshore capacity for wind energy. What is wind energy? Wind energy is the kinetic energy associated with the movement of atmospheric air. Wind turbines transform the energy in the wind into mechanical power, further converting it to electric power to generate electricity. India's potential for wind energy. According to estimates by the National Institute of Wind Energy (NIWE) and the World Bank Group, the country has the potential for more than 602 gigawatts of onshore wind energy at 120-meter hub height and 100 gigawatts of fixed and floating offshore. The state of Gujarat has the highest wind energy potential, followed by Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh. Challenges in meeting targets. 1. Failing in to meet targets. With 37.5 gigawatts of onshore wind power installed at the end of 2019, India may fall short of its 2022 targets due to pricing, payment risk mitigation, transmission capacity and land use challenges. Though issues with the bidding process. Current bidding is based on tariffs derived from the site plant load factor, the ratio of average power generated by the plant to the maximum power that could have been generated in a given time. 3. Policy issues. Gujarat and Tamil Nadu are the highest PLF states and to realize better tariffs. Most projects are being planned in these states only, 60% in Gujarat and 30% in TN. 4. The issue of land availability. In Gujarat, this issue may have been covered, but the greater issue of grid planning persists. 5. Infrastructure issues. Apart from the concentration of projects that create severe pressure on land, the creation of infrastructure for power evacuation leads to a choking situation. Chair. Investors' unwillingness. In spite of the availability of land and infrastructure in other states, investors do not prefer Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Maharashtra as the proposed projects cannot compete with projects in Gujarat and Tamil Nadu due to PLF and economic constraints. Steps have been taken to promote the installation of wind capacity in the country. Technical support including wind resource assessment and identification of potential sites through the National Institute of Wind Energy, Chennai. In order to facilitate the interstate sale of wind power, the interstate transmission charges and losses have been waived off for 52 or Insights on India.com. Wind and solar projects to be commissioned by March 2022. Issued guidelines for tariff-based competitive bidding process for procurement of power from grid-connected wind power projects. National Wind Solar Hybrid Policy 2018 to provide a framework for the promotion of large grid-connected wind solar PV hybrid systems. National Offshore Wind Energy Policy 2015 to develop offshore wind energy in the Indian Exclusive Economic Zone (EEZ) along the Indian coastline. Way forward. Under the circumstances, major original equipment manufacturers have resorted to exporting turbines and components as the domestic market is going down south. Encouragement of captive and group captives with annual banking and interstate trading under green open access will accelerate capacity addition. Mains Link Q. What do you understand by curtailment of power in the energy sector? How is it affecting the generation of renewable energy in India? 250 words. New hope for malaria vaccine. Context: the World Health Organizations, who recently approved RTS-SAS08 Mosquirix developed by GlaxoSmithKline for immunizing children against malaria, was a big milestone after decades of gradual progress. About malaria disease. Malaria is a mosquito-borne infectious disease that affects humans and other animals. It is caused by the bite of the female Anopheles mosquito that is infected with a malarial parasite. There are 5 kinds of malarial parasites, out of which Plasmodium falciparum parasite is responsible for 70% of cases in India and Plasmodium vivax globally, the commonest ones. Need to develop vaccine. According to the WHO's World Malaria Report 2021, globally, there were an estimated 241 million malaria cases in 2020 in 85 malaria endemic countries. India 1.7% of malaria cases and 1.2% of deaths globally. Most of this increase came from countries in the WHO Africa region, which accounted for 95% of cases. Malaria deaths increased by 12% globally in 2020 compared with 2019, the majority of whom are children under the age of 5. Given the parasite's very complex life cycle that correlates with protective immunity has been difficult. About the RTS-SAS08 Mosquirix vaccine. Decoding the name of the vaccine, RTS. It was engineered using genes repeat A anti-cell of the protein of the Plasmodium falciparum malaria parasite together with a viral surface antigen S of the hepatitis B virus Hapsag. This protein was then mixed with additional Hapsag to improve purification, hence the extra S. To boost immune responses, all protein-based recombinant vaccines rely heavily on a strong adjuvant. Help vaccines work better. RTS-S is formulated with an adjuvant called AS08 developed at GSK. Insights on India. Com 53. Case of India. Why hasn't India been more successful in developing such vaccines? There is a significant gap in the establishment of safe and scientifically robust control human infection models for diseases such as malaria or influenza. What is required? Touted as the pharmacy of the world, India should be able to lead the world in vaccine development and production. Long-term funding and regulatory and logistic processes is required for hassle-free working of scientists. Insta links. RSTV. In-depth malaria vaccine. Mains link. What is Mosquirix? The first malaria vaccine to get the WHO's backing. New electric vehicle batteries. Direction. No few key initiatives related to EV batteries. Understand how these batteries work. However, no need to get into the technicalities of the working of batteries. Context: Non-profit Center for Science and Environment (CSE) has collaborated with the Department of Science and Technology Ajit DST to create a platform for supporting the development of new electric vehicle F batteries to suit Indian requirements. Outline of the collaboration. An expert industry platform for the development of new electric vehicle F battery technologies assessing India's need and climate stress for batteries, application specific batteries, e.g., lithium titanate for public transport. Sodium ion for e-rickshaws, recycling of batteries, developing regulations for the in-use performance and durability of EVs and databases on performance and safety parameters. Initiative for EV safety. New safety tests for EVs, infrastructure for testing and certification by the Automotive Research Association of India. BIS issues performance norms for Li-ion batteries. Government steps for new batteries, faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid or electric vehicles in India. FAME India 1 and 2 scheme to promote the manufacturing of electric and hybrid vehicles. Department of Heavy Industry for implementation of the Production Linked Incentive PLI scheme. National Program on Advanced Chemistry Cell ACC Battery Storage. NITI Aayog released the draft battery swapping policy for electric vehicles EVs. The current deployment of lithium-ion batteries (LIBs) in India is dominated by consumer electronics, which comprises smartphones, laptops, notebooks, and tablets. 54 Insights on India. Com. Insta curious, did you know? By 2030, the demand for batteries is expected to grow fourfolds to reach an annual rate of 3,100 gigawatt hours. Insta-Link's National Program on Advanced Chemistry Cell Battery Storage. Mains Links Q. Lithium-ion batteries are the edifice of the wireless technology revolution. In this context, discuss the significance and challenges facing these rechargeable lithium batteries. 250 words. Prelims Links Q. With reference to fuel cells in which hydrogen-rich fuel and oxygen are used to generate electricity, consider the following statements. UPSC 2015-1. If pure hydrogen is used as a fuel, the fuel cell emits heat and water as byproducts. Though fuel cells can be used for powering buildings and not for small devices like laptop computers. 3. Fuel cells produce electricity in the form of alternating current AC. Which of the statements given above are correct? A. 1 only, B. 2 and 3 only, C. 1 and 3 only, D. 1, 2 and 3. Answer A. Indigenization of technology. Vikram S rocket launch. India's first privately developed rocket under mission PRARAMBH. Directive. The article will help to understand Mission Prarambh, Vikram S, Artemis 1 and their significance we had previous. Covered Mission Prarambh, but this is a much more detailed analysis. Context. In a historic moment, Vikram S, India's first privately developed rocket, lifted off recently from the Indian Space Research Organization's ISRO launchpad in Sriharikota. Background. The mission, codenamed Prarambh, the beginning, is the Indian private sector's first entry into the lucrative space launch market. It is a mission under which Vikram S, India's first privately developed launch vehicle by Hyderabad-based Skyroot Aerospace, will carry 3 customer satellites, 2 Indian and 1 foreign, in a suborbital flight. About Vikram S rocket. It is a single-stage solid-fuel suborbital launch vehicle named after Vikram Sarabhai, the pioneer of India's space program. The spacecraft travels slower than the orbital velocity in a suborbital flight, which means it is fast enough to reach outer space but not fast enough to maintain an orbit around the Earth. The launch vehicle's engine, Kalam-80, is named after former President APJ Abdul Kalam. The Vikram S is a small satellite launch vehicle (SSLV) that will carry payloads weighing between 290 and 560 kilograms (PSLV). India's workhorse can carry up to 1,750 kilograms into sun-synchronous polar orbits. Significance Technology Demonstration Mission. The Vikram S, Kalam-80 and 3D printed parts thrusters will be used to test and certify technology in the Vikram series space launch vehicles. The company is developing 3 Vikram rockets that will use various solid and cryogenic fuels and have a carbon composite core structure. More private sector missions on the way. Agnikul Cosmos, for example, whose semi-cryogenic Agnilet engine was recently tested at ISRO's Vertical Testing Facility at Thumba TERLS Thiruvananthapuram. ISRO's SSLV is also expected to be manufactured and operated by private players in the near future. Promoting startups. Around 100 startups have registered with the ISRO and are collaborating with it in various areas of the space program. Insights on India. COM55. Related news. Artemis 8 Lunar MIS. Sign. Context. NASA recently launched the Artemis 1 mission, heading to the moon on board Orion with the intention of carrying out tests ahead of future manned missions to the moon and beyond. Background. The Apollo program, Project Apollo, was NASA's third human spaceflight program after Project Mercury and Project Gemini, responsible for preparing and landing the first humans on the moon between 1968 and 1972. About the Artemis 1 mission. Artemis 1, formerly known as Exploration Mission 1, is the first planned and crewed test flight in NASA's Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the moon. It will also be the maiden flight of the agency's Space Launch System (SLS) rocket, which will be the most powerful rocket engine ever flown into space, even more powerful than Apollo's Saturn V rocket, which carried people to the moon in the 1960 and 1970. Significance. Artemis 1 will test how well SLS and Orion can complete a mission to the moon and back. Artemis 2 2024 will be a crewed flight but not land on the moon. Artemis 3 2026 will land on the south pole of the moon. Other missions to Moon. Luna 2 USSR, Apollo 11 USA, Chandrayaan 1 and 2 India. Insta links. Space technology. Mains links Q. In order to reap the maximum benefits, it becomes pertinent to increase private participation and nudge India towards a scientific pursuit of space exploration driven by economic aims. Discuss. 250 words. NITI AYOG proposes DECARBONIZING industrial emissions. Direction. CCUS is a promising technology to address climate change challenges. The article highlights the role of CCUS, challenges, and suggestions to reap the maximum benefits of CCUS. Context. NITI Aayog recently released a report on the policy framework of carbon capture utilization and storage (CCUS), a technology for decarbonizing carbon dioxide (CO2) from high-polluting sectors. About carbon capture utilization and storage (CCUS). Highlights of the report. Background: India's per capita CO2 emissions were approximately 1.9 tons, which was less than 40% of the global average and almost one-fourth of China's. Steel, cement, oil, gas, petrochemicals, chemicals, and fertilizer industries are crucial to the country's goal of halving CO2 emissions by 2050. As a result, a long-term sustainable strategy for decarbonizing sectors responsible for 70% of emissions is required, particularly for India's goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2070. Role to be played by CCUS: boost the promotion of a low-carbon hydrogen economy and the removal of CO2 from the atmosphere. Enable the development of clean products. 56 Insights on India. Com. Green methanol, green ammonia while utilizing abundant coal resources, lowering imports, and leading to an economically self-sufficient India. Support sunrise sectors like coal gasification and India's budding hydrogen economy. The key challenge: reduce the cost of the mechanisms to implement the technology. Carbon capture, for example, needs the development of molecules capable of binding CO2 in the exhaust gas, which is costly. Suggestions: emphasize on, particularly on cutting-edge technologies. To put in place a policy framework that will encourage the development of sustainable and viable markets for CCUS projects. Focus on financing and funding mechanisms, sufficient incentives, carbon credits to promote the private sector, etc. Gradual policy shift towards carbon taxes in order to achieve India's net zero goals by 2070. Biotechnology. What's the hurry for GM mustard? Context: experts express concern regarding the recent recommendation of the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee (GEAC) for approval for the environmental release of genetically engineered GE mustard DMH11 hybrid in India. Background: India's rising import bill for edible oil. In the fiscal year ending March 31, 2022, the country produced just 8.529 million tons (mt) of edible oil while importing 14 to 14.5 mt, resulting in a record foreign exchange outflow of $18.99 billion. DMH11 hybrid, developed by genetic modification (GM) by the process of hybridization of two alien genes, Barnase Joule Baster, isolated from a soil bacterium called Bacillus amyloic Hybridization involves crossing two genetically dissimilar plant varieties that can even be from the same species to have higher yields than what either parent can individually give. DMH11 is claimed to have shown an average 28% yield increase over the Indian mustard variety Varuna, in field trials carried out by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research (ICAR). GEAC. It is a body responsible for the appraisal of proposals relating to the release of GM organisms and products ordinarily considered hazardous into the environment. In the case of the DMH11 hybrid, it has recommended the environmental release of DMH11 for its seed production and testing prior to commercial release. Concern raised by experts: the potentially harmful long-term ecological and economic consequences of DMH11. Details of the mandatory trials to ensure food environmental safety, a prerequisite before environmental release, have not been made public. A detailed long-term assessment of the potential social and economic benefits of using DMH11 remains to be made. Threat of displacement of manual labor engaged in weeding as the GM mustard is weed tolerant. Concerns regarding impact on the population of honeybees as mustard flowers are a source of nectar for honeybees. Disastrous effect of the spread of herbicide resistance HT gene on the normal crop. Way ahead, the following requirements for environmental release have been proposed by GEAC. Usage of any formulation of herbicide is recommended only under controlled and specified conditions. Usage of any formulation of herbicide is not permitted for cultivation in the farmer's field. The applicant CGMCP should conduct field demonstration studies with respect to the effect of GM mustard on honeybees. Conclusion: a great deal of time, effort and resources have gone into the development and testing of DMH11 mustard. However, the existing investment should not discourage us from doing a thorough examination of the risks posed by GM mustard. Insights on India. COM57. Insta links, GM mustard. Mains links, Q. The decision to remove the unscientific ban on genetically modified GM crops reflects the determination of the government to move towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. It also meets the aspirations of our scientific community, and farmers can derive the benefits of innovative technology. Critically analyze. 250 words. Prelims links. Consider the following statements. 1. Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee is the apex regulator of GM crops in India. Though India does not permit the commercial cultivation of GM rice. 3. GM seed companies must mandatorily obtain permission from the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee for conducting field trials of GM crops in India. Which of the above statements are correct? A2 only, B1 and 2 only, C1, 2 and 3, D2 and 3 only, ans, B. Explanation: India does not permit the commercial cultivation of GM rice, but research groups are testing varieties of such rice in trial plots. Though the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee is the apex regulator of GM crops, it is mandated that trials of GM crops obtain permission from states. Refer https://www. Insights on India. COM, the 27th of October 2022. GM mustard. Environmental conservation. Air pollution in context. Delhi pollution. Reasons for Delhi NCR region facing extreme particulate pollution. Geographical reasons. Location of Delhi. It lies to the northeast of the Thar Desert, to the northwest of the Central Plains and to the southwest of the Himalayas. As winds arrive from the coasts, bringing with them pollutants picked up along the way, they get trapped right before the Himalayas. Cold temperature during winter facilitate trapping of pollutants at ground level. Lack of wind after the end of the monsoon stagnates the pollutants. Dust storm that originate in Middle East contribute to 40% of dust. Anthropogenic factors, stubble burning, in neighboring state to prepare field for next crop cycle. Manufacturing activity, power generation, construction, and transport. Lack of citizen activism. Regulation is limited to banning industrial activities but is not focused on hand-holding the transition to green energy choices. Impact on adult. 12.5% of deaths in India occurred due to air pollution. On children, More than 116,000 infants in India died within a month of birth in 2019 due to air pollution. On mother, impacts placenta and fetus. On education, lost hours due to the closure of schools. On economy, closure of industries, limits on the construction activity at sea. Steps taken by the Government Graded Response Action Plan (GRAPC). Mehta vs. Union of India 2016 for implementation under different Air Quality Index AQI categories. National Clean Air Program NCAP aims at reducing the concentration of PM10 and PM2.5 in 58 or Insights on India. Com. The atmosphere by at least 20% by the year 2024, with 2017 as the base year for comparison. To mitigate stubble burning, turbo-happy seeders and biodecomposers, collecting and using stubble as fuel in boilers, to produce ethanol, or simply burning away alongside coal in thermal power plants, fungi cocktail to decompose stubble by ICR. Other measures: mobile enforcement teams to check vehicular pollution, public awareness campaigns, investment in mass rapid transport systems, and phasing out old commercial vehicles. Delhi's Green War Room, signaling the fight against the smog, is analyzing satellite data on farm fires from Punjab and Haryana to identify and deal with the culprits. Cleaner transport, push for electric vehicles. Conclusion: facing a growing environmental and health calamity, anti-pollution efforts are being strengthened. But to succeed, the different levels of government must harness the political will to invest more, coordinate across boundaries, and motivate businesses and residents to do their bit. Insta links. Air pollution. Mains links. Q. How is air pollution measured and tracked in India? What are the recent changes introduced to air pollution measurement? 15M. Prelims links. In the context of air quality guidelines, consider the following statements. UPSC 2022-1. The 24-hour mean of PM2.5 should not exceed 15 ug and the annual mean of PM2.5 should not exceed 5 ug. Though, in a year, the highest levels of ozone pollution occurred during periods of inclement weather. 3. PM10 can penetrate the lung barrier and enter the bloodstream. 4. Excessive ozone in the air can trigger asthma. Which of the statements given above is correct? 8. 3 and 4. Peak 1 and 4 only. C2. 3 and 4. Peak 1 and 2 only. Answer B. Q. Which of the following are the reasons, factors for exposure to benzene pollution? UPSC 2020-1. Automobile exhaust 2. Tobacco smoke 3. Wood burning 4. Using varnished wooden furniture 5. Using products made of polyurethane. Select the correct answer using the code given below. A. 1, 2 and 3 only. B. 2 and 4 only. C. 1, 3 and 4 only. D. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Answer D. Government notified Management Rules 2022. Context: the government has notified Waste Management Rules 2022, which will come into force from the 1st of April next year and apply to every manufacturer, producer, refurbisher, dismantler and recycler of waste. Key provisions of the rules restricted the use of hazardous substances in manufacturing electrical and electronic equipment having adverse impact on human health and the environment. Increased the range of electronic goods. Targets fixed. Producers of electronic goods have to ensure at least 60% of their electronic waste is collected and recycled by 2023. Companies will report these on an online portal. Extended producer responsibility certificates. This will allow the offset teeing of a waste responsibility to a third party. Environmental compensation to be imposed on companies that don't meet their target. Role of state governments. Earmarking industrial space for e-waste dismantling and recycling facilities, undertaking industrial skill development and establishing measures for protecting the health and safety of workers engaged in the dismantling and recycling facilities for e-waste. Role of manufacturers. Make the end product recyclable. Role of Central Pollution Control Board. Conduct random sampling of electrical and electronic equipment placed on the market to monitor and verify the compliance of reduction of hazardous substances provisions. Impact of e-wastes. Toxins' harmful health impact on humans includes damage or insights on India. COM59. To the brain, heart, liver, kidneys and skeletal system. They can also have a significant effect on neurological and reproductive systems, resulting in sickness and birth abnormalities. E-waste refers to all items of electronic and electrical equipment and its parts that have been discarded by their owner as waste without the intent of reuse. India is the third largest e-waste generator in the world after China and the USA. Global E-Waste Monitor 2020. 95% of e-waste in India is recycled by the informal sector. Background of the issue. Under E-Waste Management Rules 2016, it is mandatory for the organization to comply with the extended producer responsibility of recycling e-waste. Complying with that, most firms outsourced recycling to organizations called Producer Responsibility Organizations Pro. CPCB has registered 74 pros. In May 2022, Environment Ministry issued a draft notification that does away with pro and dismantlers and vests all responsibility of recycling with authorized recyclers, only a handful of whom exist in India. Now, authorized recyclers will source a quantity of waste, recycle them and generate electronic certificates. Companies can buy these certificates equivalent to their annual committed target and thus do not have to be involved with engaging pros and dismantlers. Conclusion. Recent government data shows that e-waste recycling has doubled in the country from a rate of 10% in 2017-18 has risen to 20% in 2018-19. What is needed is a sound market-based incentive that encourages both demand and supply side factors to voluntarily adopt e-waste recycling. In this respect, the e-waste clinic at Bhopal is a pilot project wherein e-waste will be collected door to door or could be deposited directly at the clinic in exchange for a fee, which needs to be studied for its success. Instalinks e-waste management. Mains links queue. The electronic waste, or e-waste, is one of the fastest growing waste streams worldwide. Discuss the measures that are needed for the safe disposal of e-waste in the country. 250 words. Prelims link queue. Due to improper, indiscriminate disposal of old and used computers or their parts, which of the following are released into the environment as e-waste? UPSC 2013-1 Beryllium 2 Cadmium 3 Chromium 4 Heptachlor 5 Mercury 6 Lead 7. Plutonium. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. A. 1, 3, 4, 6 and 7 only. B. 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6 only. C. 2, 4, 5 and 7 only. D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Answer B. Dynamic Groundwater Resource Assessment 2022 report. Direction. Water is always an important and favorite topic of UPSC. Always have notes prepared on the different aspects of water use. Context. An assessment report on groundwater by the Central Groundwater Board and States UTS was released recently. Under Ministry of Jal Shakti. Key findings. India is the largest user of groundwater, GW, accounting for 1/4 of total withdrawal. 87% of GW is used for irrigation. GW extraction has declined and the number of overexploited units extraction greater than recharge has decreased. Currently, 67% of GW units are safe, extraction less than 70% of recharge, 14% overexploited and 4% at the critical level. Extraction is very high in Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan etc. Reasons for use of groundwaters in irrigation. Erratic monsoon, successive droughts and erratic rainfall have led to excess extraction of groundwater. Subsidy. Low prices of free electricity offers an incentive for the unchecked lifting of groundwater. Green revolution caused the overuse of groundwater. Water-intensive crops. Government encourages farmers to produce water-intensive crops like rice and sugarcane through increased minimum support prices (MSP). 60. Insights on India. Problems associated with such rampant use. Lowering of the water table. The World Bank predicts that by 2032, around 60% of aquifers in the country will be in a critical state. Reduction of water in streams and lakes. A substantial amount of the water flowing in rivers comes from the seepage of groundwater into the stream. Depletion of groundwater levels may reduce water flow in such streams. Land subsidence. A lack of groundwater limits biodiversity and dangerous sinkholes result from depleted aquifers.